my sound is, but I hope it'll sound nice for now. Today, I will be reading a bunch of short stories. Right now, I will start reading The Velveteen Rabbit. Now, I've personally never heard or ever read or had The Velveteen Rabbit ever read to me, so this should be rather fun, and I hope you do enjoy it, darling. I wish the best, and yeah. Let me just post this to Twitter and get my link from mobile, because I oddly do not remember it. A bit odd, I know. But that's what happens. Nah. That's good enough if I don't share it, I suppose. But for now, please do enjoy The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. There was once a Velveteen Rabbit, and in the beginning he was really splendid. He was fat and bunchy, as a rabbit should be. His coat was spotted brown and white. He had real thread whiskers, and his ears were lined with pink sateen. On Christmas morning, when he sat wedged on top of the boy's stocking, with a sprig of holly between his paws, and the effect was charming. There were other things in the stocking, nuts and oranges, and a toy engine, and chocolate almonds, and a clockwork mouse. But the rabbit was quite the best of all. For at least 2 hours the boy loved him, and then the aunts and uncles came to dinner, and there was a great rustling of tissue paper and unwrapping of parcels. Let me just silence my phone here, because I don't think you really want to hear all my notifications. I apologize. And in the excitement of looking at all the new presents, the Velveteen Rabbit was forgotten. For a long time he lived in a toy cupboard or on the nursery floor, and no one thought very much about him. He was naturally shy, and being only made of velveteen, some of the more expensive toys quite snubbed him. Oh, welcome in, Bread. Thank you for coming. You really want all of them. Fine. Let me just find one. That's good. Let me just finish this paragraph and say, the mechanical toys were very superior, looked down upon everyone else. They were full of modern ideas and pretended they were real. The model boat, who had lived through 2 seasons and lost most of his paint, caught the tone from them and never missed an opportunity of referring to his rigging in technical terms. The rabbit could not claim to be a model of anything, for he did not know that real rabbits existed. He thought they were all stuffed with sawdust like himself, and he understood that sawdust was quite out of date and should never be mentioned in modern circles. Even Timothy, the jointed wooden lion, who was made by disabled soldiers and should have broader views, put on airs and pretended he was connected with government. Between them, the poor little rabbit was made to feel himself very insignificant and commonplace. And the only person who was kind to him at all was a skin horse. Ah, thank you, Brad. Granted, I had to figure out how to... the real face. Fine. Let me see if I still have the image in here and I'll show it. Which one is this? Here it is. I hope you don't mind how beautiful it is. Let me just put my phone back here. I still have to get the rigging back, or get the model to where it should be, as you can tell, because every time I turn my head, my whole body moves. But that's alright. So, let's see, you have a good boy. Such a good boy. Coming here. Good boy. Good boy. Or is it good girl you want today? I can give you all you want, I suppose. I can pet you, pat your hair, hold you nice and tight. Oh, whose emote is that you just used? It's a nice laughing one. Looks very cute. Do you happen to know what type of bread you are by chance? Ah, no, the wind, okay. You can imagine yourself what type I am. How about you go into DMs, send me a random bread, and I'll insert it to the stream. And I'll just put it in the corner. I trust you won't have any problem with that, huh? Now, hugs. Here. You're doing good. You're doing alright. Just come rest your head against my chest. I'll give you a nice warm hug, okay? Just relax. You've had a hard day. Just relax. It's all gonna be good. It's all going to be fine. Just relax. Just relax. There. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go back to reading on. Let me just page down here. Ooh, I had to select this. The skinned horse had lived longer in the nursery than the others. He was so old that his brown coat was bald in patches and showed the seams underneath, and most of the hairs on his tail had been pulled out to string bead necklaces. He was wise, for he had seen a long succession of mechanical toys arrive to boast and swagger, and by the by break their mainsprings and pass away. He knew that they were only toys, and they would never turn into anything else, for nursery magic was very strange and wonderful, for only those playthings that were old and wise and experienced like the skinned horse understood all about it. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day, when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender, before Nana came to tidy the room. "Does that mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Real isn't how you are made," said the skinned horse. "It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the skinned horse, for he was always truthful. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up?" "Ah, hi, Pastel Hun. I do hope you're having a wonderful time." "And I had a wonderful day, too. I had a nice peppermint tea, and... what else did I have? A peppermint tea, and I read a bit of a wonderful, 2 chapters as of a wonderful book called The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I do greatly, greatly recommend it. It's nice, very homoerotic, which is something I pretty much immediately picked on when the guy, when the author started detailing in detail the beauty of this guy. And ooh, I'm not gonna lie, the guy does sound very beautiful. Does it happen all at once? Said the skinned horse. You become, and it takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily, or are sharp edges, or who have been carefully kept. Generally, by the time you're real, most of your hair has been loved off, or your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you're real, you can't be ugly except to those people who do not understand. Oh, hi Chai. Welcome in, hon. I'm reading the Velveteen Rabbit. It's quite fun. I know. It was sad. Oh, Brad, let me see if I am in your DMs then. Cause what? Bread. Oh god, there's so many breads I have for some reason. Okay, I think this is you with the underscore at the end. Here. What? Okay. There. Oh, it's usually because you don't share a server. Cyprian? Oh, I had to friend you? Okay. Friend request has been sent. Anyway, welcome in, Chai. Do enjoy yourself. I'll be reading the Velveteen Rabbit as soon as Bread sends me a wonderful picture of bread so I can send it in here. And yes, what happened when I was reading was actually quite sad because I was petting it and all that. And then suddenly it decided to get up, walk 8 feet away from me, and groom. Not too far away from me. Okay, save image. Oh, I can't save preview. Open original. Download. Save image as. I had to cut this out so it doesn't look bad. Bread pre-cut. And then I open image editor. It shouldn't take us longer in a second then. And cut out. Remove. And there we go. Bread cut. There. And perfect. Now if you allow me to just insert it, and I will continue doing my thing. Image. Okay, which one has been cut? There it is. Okay. Okay, I have you there, Brett. Now, back to actually reading the story for which people came for. The boy's uncle made me real, he said. That was a great many years ago, but once you are real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts for always. The rabbit sighed. He thought it would be a great time before this magic called real happened to him. He longed to become real, to know what it felt like, and yet the idea of growing shabby and losing his eyes and whiskers was rather sad. He wished he could become it without these uncomfortable things happening to him. Ah, welcome in, Lex. Do enjoy yourself, and oh, call me a cutie already. My. There was a person called Nana who ruled the nursery. Sometimes she took no notice of the playthings lying about, and sometimes, for no reason whatever, she went swooping about like a great wind and hustled them away in cupboards. She called this tidying up, and the playthings all hated it. especially the tin ones. The rabbit didn't mind it much, for whenever he was thrown, he came down soft. One evening, when the boy was going to bed, he couldn't find a china dog that always slept with him. Nana was in a hurry, and it was too much trouble to hunt for china dogs at bedtime. So she simply looked about for her, and seeing that the toy cupboard door stood open, she made a swoop. "Here," she said, "take your old bunny. He'll do to sleep with you." And she dragged the bunny out by one ear and put him into the boy's arms. Oh, really? Oh, those are some nice emotes. I do have routines, so if you want me to say something or do something, feel free to just do them. That night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen Rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first he found it rather uncomfortable, for the boy hugged him very tight, and sometimes he rolled over on him, and sometimes he pushed him so far under the pillow that the rabbit could scarcely breathe, and he missed too these long moonlight hours in the nursery, when all the house was silent, and his talks with the skin horse. But very soon he grew to like it, for the boy used to talk to him, and made nice tunnels for him under the bedclothes, that he said were like the burrows a real rabbits lived in. And they had splendid games together, in whispers when Nana had gone away to her supper, and left the nightlight burning on the mantelpiece, and when the boy dropped off to sleep, the rabbit would snuggle down close under his little warm chin and dream, with the boy's hand clasped close round him all night long. And so time went on, and the little rabbit was very happy, so happy that he never noticed how beautiful his velveteen fur was getting shabbier and shabbier, and his tail was becoming unsewn, and all the pink rubbed off his nose where the boy had kissed him. Oh, kiss. Very nice. That didn't sound nice at all, though. Spring came, and they had long days in the garden, for whenever the boy went, the rabbit went too. He had rides in the wheelbarrow, and picnics in the grass, and lovely fairy huts built for him under the raspberry canes behind the flower border. And once, when the boy was called away suddenly to go out to tea, the rabbit was left out in the not until long after dusk, and Nana had come to look for him with the candle because the boy couldn't go to sleep unless he was there. He was wet, though, with the dew, and quite earthy from diving into the burrows the boy had made for him in the flower bed, and Nana grumbled as she rubbed him off with a corner of her apron. Okay, give me a second to do a kiss. It's always hard, though, when you don't have someone to kiss. There. If you want better ones, then I'm going to have to find some way to do them better than You must have your old bunny, she said. Fancy all that fuss for a toy. The boy sat up in bed and stretched out his arms. Oh, do you know a better way he licks? Is it Licks or Hazzy you want me to call you? I can call you whatever. It doesn't matter, because ultimately it's all going to be good in the end. Give me my bunny, he said. You mustn't say that. He isn't a toy, he's real. When the little rabbit heard that he was happy, for he knew what the skin horse had said was true at last. The nursery magic had happened to him. He was a toy no longer. Ooh, Hazzy. We're both Licks, lol. That's okay, Hazzy. I'll just call you that from now on. The nursery magic had happened to him, and he was no toy. He was a toy no longer. He was real. The boy himself had said it. That night he was almost too happy to sleep, and so much love stirred in his little sawdust heart that made him almost burst, and into his boot-button eyes, and that had long ago lost their polish. There came a look of wisdom and beauty, so that even Nana noticed it next morning when she picked him up and said, "I declare that if this old bunny hasn't grown quite a knowing expression. That was a wonderful summer." Near the house where they lived, there was a wood, and in the long June evenings the boy liked to go there after tea to play. He took the Velveteen Rabbit with him, and before he wandered off to pick flowers, or play at brigands among the trees, he always made the rabbit a little nest somewhere along the bracken, and where he would be quite cozy, for he was a kind-hearted little boy, and he liked the bunny to be comfortable. One evening, while the rabbit was lying there alone, watching the ants that ran to and fro between his velvet paws in the grass, he saw two strange beings creep out from the tall bracken near him. They were rabbits like themselves, but quite furry and brand new. They must have been very well made, for the seams didn't show at all, and they changed shape in a queer way when they moved. One minute they are long and thin, and the next minute fat and bunchy, instead of always staying the same like he did. Their feet patted softly on the ground, and they crept quite close to him, twitching their noses, while the rabbit stared hard to see the side where the clockwork stuck out, for he knew that people who jump generally have something to wind them up. But he couldn't see it. They were evidently a new kind of rabbit altogether. They stared at him, and the little rabbit stared back, and all the time their noses twitched. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" one of them asked. "I don't feel like it," said the rabbit, but he didn't want to explain that he had no clockwork. "Ho," said the furry rabbit. "It is easy as anything," and he gave a big hop sideways and stood on his hind legs. "I don't believe you can," he said. "Ah, I can," said the little rabbit. "I can jump higher than anything," he meant when the boy threw him, but of course he didn't want to say so. "Can you hop on your hind legs?" asked the furry rabbit. That was a dreadful expression, for the Velveteen Rabbit had no hind legs at all. The back of him was made all in one piece, like a pincushion. He sat still in the bracken, and hoped the other rabbits wouldn't notice. "I don't want to," he said again. But the rabbits had very sharp eyes, and this one stretched out his neck and looked. "He hasn't got any hind legs," he called out. "Fancy a rabbit without any hind legs!" And he began to laugh. "I have," cried the rabbit. "I have got hind legs. I'm sitting on them." "Then stretch them out and show me, like this," said the wild rabbit. And he began to whirl round and dance, till the little rabbit got quite dizzy. "I don't like dancing," he said. "I'd rather sit still." But all the while he was longing to dance, for a funny new tickling feeling ran through him, and he felt he would give anything in the world to be able to jump about like these rabbits did. The strange rabbit stopped dancing and came quite close. He came so close this time that his long whiskers brushed the Velveteen Rabbit's ear. And then he wrinkled his nose suddenly and flattened his ears and jumped backwards. "He doesn't smell right," he exclaimed. "He isn't a rabbit at all. He isn't real." "I am real," said the little rabbit. "I am real. The boy said so." He nearly began to cry. Just then there was a sound of footsteps, and a boy ran past near them, and with a stamp of feet and a flash of white tails, the two strange rabbits disappeared. "Come back and play with me," called the little rabbit. "Oh, do come back. I know I am real." But there was no answer. Only the little ants ran to and fro, and the bracken stayed gently where the two strangers had passed. The Velveteen Rabbit was all alone. "Oh dear," he thought. "Why did they run away like that? They couldn't stop and talk to me." For a long time he lay very still, watching the bracken, hoping they would come back. But they never returned, and presently the sun sank lower, and the little white moths fluttered out. and a boy came and carried him home. Weeks passed, and the little rabbit grew very old and shabby, but the boy loved him just as much. He loved him so hard that he loved all of his whiskers off, and the pink lining in his ears turned gray, and his brown spots faded. He even began to lose his shape, and he scarcely looked like a rabbit anymore, except to the boy. To him he was always beautiful, and that was all that the little rabbit cared about. He didn't mind how he looked to other people, because the nursery magic had made him real, and when you are real, shabbiness doesn't matter. Then, one day, the boy was ill. His face grew very flustered, and he talked in his sleep, and his little body was so hot that it burned the rabbit when he held him close. Strange people came and went in the nursery, and the light burned all night, and the little velveteen rabbit lay there, hidden from sight under the bedclothes, and he never stirred, for he was afraid that if they found him, someone might take him away, and he knew that the boy needed him. It was a long, weary time, for the boy was too ill to play, and the little rabbit found it rather dull with nothing to do all day long. But he snuggled down patiently, and looked forward to the time when the boy should be well again, and when they would go out to the garden amongst the flowers and butterflies, and and play splendid games in the raspberry thicket like they used to. All sorts of delightful things he had planned, and while the boy lay half asleep, he crept up close to the pillow and whispered them in his ear. And presently the fever turned, and the boy got better. He was able to sit up in bed and look at picture books, while the little rabbit cuddled close to his side. And one day they let him get up and dress. It was bright Sunday morning, and the windows stood wide open. They had carried the boy out to the balcony, wrapped in a shawl, and the little rabbit lay tangled among the bedclothes, thinking the boy was going to the seaside tomorrow. Everything was arranged, and now it only remained to carry out the doctor's orders. They all talked about it, while the little rabbit lay under the bedclothes with just his head peeping out, and listened. The room was to be disinfected. All the books and toys that the rabbit had played with in bed must be burnt. Hurrah, thought the little rabbit. Tomorrow we should go to the seaside, for the boy had often talked of the seaside, and how very much to see, and how he wanted very much to see the big waves coming in, and the tiny crabs and the sand castles. Just then Nana caught sight of him. "What about this old bunny?" she asked. "That," said the doctor. "Why, it's a mass of scarlet fever germs. Burn it at once." "What? Nonsense. Get him a new one. He mustn't have that one any more." And so the little rabbit was put into a sack with the old picture books and a lot of rubbish, and carried out to the end of the garden behind the fowl house. That was a fine place to make a bonfire, only the gardener was too busy just then to attend to it. He had the potatoes to dig and green peas to gather, but next morning he promised he would come quite early and burn the whole lot. That night the boy slept in a different room, and he had a new bunny to sleep with. It was a splendid bunny, all white plush with real glass eyes, but the boy was too excited to care very much about it, for tomorrow he was going to go to the seaside, and that in itself was such a wonderful thing that all he could think of, nothing else. And while the boy was asleep, dreaming of the seaside, the little rabbit lay among the old picture books in a corner behind the fowl house, and he felt very lonely. The sack had been left untied, and so by wriggling a bit he was able to get to his head through the opening and look out. He was shivering a little, for he had always been used to sleeping in a proper bed, and by this time his coat had worn so thin and threadbare from hugging that it was no longer any protection to him. Nearby, he could see the thicket of raspberry canes, growing tall and close like a tropical jungle, and no shadow he had played with the boy on bygone mornings. He thought of those long sunlit hours in the garden, how happy they were, and a great sadness came over him. He seemed to... I'll do that redeem just in a second, Razzie, after I finish this paragraph. He seemed to see them all pass before him, each more beautiful than the other, the fairy huts in the flower bed, the quiet evenings in the wood when he lay in the bracken, and the little ants ran over his paws, the wonderful day when he first knew he was real, the thought of the skinned horse, so wise and gentle, and all that he had told him. Of what use was it to be loved, and one's beauty become real, if it all ended like this? And a real tear trickled down his little shabby velvet nose and fell to the ground. Okay, now, time to do the headbands. If you want, you can redeem a good girl or good boy, and then make it 5 times better. I'll wait for you to redeem that too. Okay. Good boy, Azzy. I thank you, and I love you for coming into my stream. Just listening and relaxing. I thank you so much. You're just a good, wonderful, great boy. Now just relax. Relax, Azzy. Just relax. Okay. Close your eyes. Rest your head against my chest. I'll wrap you in a nice warm blanket. And you can just relax as I read this book to you. Okay, all I want you to do as I pet your head is just relax. Okay? Think about nothing else. Good boy. Good boy. Was that good enough? Oh, you are a good boy, Azzy. Now, back to the book. And remember, you can redeem these whenever you want. And then a strange thing happened, for where the tear had fallen, a flower grew out of the ground, a mysterious flower, not at all like any that grew in the garden. It had slender green leaves, the color of emeralds, and in the center of the leaves a blossom like a golden cup. It was so beautiful that the little rabbit forgot to cry, and just lay there watching it. And presently the blossom opened, and there out of it stepped a fairy. She was quite the loveliest fairy in the whole world. Her dress was made of pearl and dewdrops, and there were little flowers round her neck and in her hair, and her face was like the most perfect flower of all. And she came close to the little rabbit, and gathered him up in her arms, and kissed him on his velveteen nose that was all damp from crying. "Little rabbit," she said, "what, don't you know who I am?" The rabbit looked up to her, and it seemed to him that he had seen her face before, but he couldn't quite think where. "I'm the nursery magic fairy," she said. "I take care of all the playthings that the children have loved, and when they are old and worn out, and the children don't need them anymore, then I come and take them away with me and turn them into real." "Wasn't I real before?" asked the little rabbit. "You were real to the boy," the fairy said, "because he loved you. Now you shall be real to everyone." Ooh. She held the little rabbit close in her arms and flew with him into the wood. It was light now, for the moon had risen. All the forest was beautiful, and the fronds of the bracken shone like frosted silver. In the open glade, between the tree trunks, the wild rabbits danced with their shadows on the velvet grass. But when they saw the fairy, they had all stopped dancing and stood round in a ring to stare at her. "I've brought you a new playfellow," said the fairy. "You must all be very kind to him and teach him all he needs to know in Rabbitland, for he is going to live with you forever and ever." And she kissed the little rabbit again and put him down on the grass. "Run and play, little rabbit," she said. But the little rabbit sat quite still for a moment and never moved, for when he saw the other wild rabbits dancing around him, he suddenly remembered about his hind legs. He didn't want them to see that he was made all in one piece. He did not know that when the fairy kissed him the last time, she had changed him altogether, and he might have sat there for a long time, too shy to move, if just then something had tickled his nose, and before he thought what he was doing he had lifted his hind toe to scratch it, and he found that he had actually had hind legs instead of dingy velveteen. He had brown fur, soft and shiny. His ears twitched by themselves, and his whiskers were so long that they brushed the grass. He gave one leap, and the joy of using those hind legs was so great that he went springing about the tuff on them, jumping sideways and whirling around as the others did. He grew so excited that when at last he did stop to look at the fairy, she had gone. He was a real rabbit at last, at home with the other rabbits. Autumn passed, and winter, and in the spring, when the days grew warm and sunny, and the boy went out to play in the wood behind the grass, and while he was playing, 2 rabbits crept out of the bracken and peeped at him. One was brown all over, but the other had strange markings under his fur, as though long ago he had been spotted, and the spots still showed through, and about his little soft nose and his round black eyes there was something familiar, so that the boy thought to himself, "Why, he looks just like my old bunny that was lost when he had scarlet fever." But he never knew that it was really his own bunny, come back to look at the child who had first helped him to be real. Ooh. Well, not gonna lie, that's making me tear up. No idea why, but very sad indeed. Now, let me try and find another short story for me to read to you, darling. I know, it's very sad, you know, the Velveteen Rabbit. Very sad. I'll let you pick now, Hazzy. You have a few options. The 3 Little Pigs, Winnie the Pooh, Jack and the Beanstalk, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, St. George and the Dragon, Little Red Riding Hood, My Father's Dragon, and the Boggy Beast. Oh, hello, Egghun. Welcome in. I still have to figure out all the important stuff for the model, but again, thank you. I'll probably type these in chat so everyone... Ooh, what about a poll? I kinda need to do a poll. I think that would be a better way of doing this. So... Okay, and I'll just put the poll up for 1 minute. Okay? So, you say Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, Razzie. Or has he? I'll think of that one too. This is just a very quick poll. A very, very quick one. And ignore what I'm doing for just a second, okay? There. Okay. And yeah, let me close that out. Oh. Oh my. You better not look at the feet. Okay, let me see what it looks like on stream again. Yeah, ain't bad. Face. Face. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood one. Little Red Riding Hood is then, hun. Oh, let me just change what's here. I think, is it this text? Let me type this proper now. Oh, even the red's capitalized. Oh. Okay. Little Red Riding Hood. There. Now, once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she could not have given her to the child. Once she gave her a little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother, she is ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and before you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will get nothing, and then you go into her room. Don't forget to say good morning, and peep into every corner before you do it." "I will take great care," said Little Red Riding Hood to her mother, and gave her hand on it. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village. Just as Little Red Riding Hood entered the wood, a wolf met her. Little Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not afraid at all of him. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," he said. "Thank you kindly, Wolf. Whither away so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What have you got in your apron?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother's to have something good, to make her stronger." "And where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A good quarter of a league farther out, on in the wood. Her house stands under the large oak trees. The nut tree is just below." "You surely must know it," replied Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature! What a plump mouthful! She would do better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily, so as to catch both." So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said, "See, Little Red Riding Hood, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look around?" "I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school." Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes. There's one last sentence I had to finish. "While everything else out here in the wood is merry." Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing here and there through the trees, the pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother a fresh nosegay. That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get here, and get there in a good time. And so she ran from the path into the wood to look for flowers, and wherever she had picked one she fancied she saw a still prettier one farther on, and ran after it, and so got deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who is it?" "Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf. "She is bringing cake and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called out the grandmother. "I am too weak and cannot get it." The wolf lifted the latch. The door sprang open. Without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many that she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother, and set out on the way to her. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went out into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today, and at other times I feel like being with grandmother so much." "Ah, you want me to take a sip?" "Okay, I will, hon. Thank you very kindly." I still have a spicy hot cinnamon chai that I have to drink, and that one's just in a thermos. Would recommend. I think the name is meant to be... I think that's the name of it, but it has been a little while. Also, Pastel, this is a random question, but do you know if, I'm blanking on his name. He's a Swedish Grey ASMR's cat. I want him to stream more, but I suppose life gets in the way. Meowrick, yes. I do hope the best for Meowrick. Femboy Maurice. Finally, welcome in. I don't know how best to make my model, but thank you so much for coming in. Feel free to check out all the redeems and all that, and I'll do whichever one you want me to do. And yes, Pastel, I do hope the best for Meowrick, but if you ever get in contact with him, do ask him to just send me a message or something. I'm too shy. Anyway, back to doing Scuff streaming. Okay. Little Red Riding Hood. She called out, "Good morning," but I received no answer. So she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, with her cap pulled far over her face, and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my child," was the reply. "But, grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said. "The better to see you with, my dear." "But, grandmother, what large hands you have, the better to hug you with." "Oh, but, grandmother, what a terribly big mouth you have, the better to eat you with." That's pretty sus right there. And scarcely had the wolf said this, than with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Little Red Riding Hood. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, I know, he lay down again in the bed and fell asleep and began to snore so loud, so very loud. The huntsman was just passing a house and thought to himself how the old woman was snoring. I must see if she wants anything. So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw the wolf was lying in it. "Do I find here "Do I find you here, you old sinner?" he said. "I have long sought you." Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that she might be saved, so he did not fire, but took a big pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. I've never read that, or read this, but my god, that is sus as all hell. When he made 2 snips, he saw the little Red Riding Hood shining, and then he made 2 more snips, and the little girl sprang out crying, "Oh, how frightened I have been, how dark it was inside the wolf." And after that the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Little Red Riding Hood, however, quickly fetched great stones, with which they filled the wolf's belly, and when he awoke he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he collapsed at once and fell dead. What? This is just... I suppose from the grammar also, this is translated from Old German of some form, because... Let me go look this up. I remember the one where the hunter hatched open the belly. God. Is Little Red Riding Hood German? And Little Red Riding Hood is a European fairy tale about a young girl and a sly wolf. Its origins can be traced back to several pre-17th century European folk tales. The 2 best-known versions were by Charles Perrault and the Brothers Grimm. Yeah, it doesn't say. Oh god. It does feel like the OG version if I were to ever learn Old German or whatever old language it's in. That would be... wow. Wasn't there one about Cinderella too where they cut off their toes to fit them in the golden slippers? God. Okay, now back to it. Oh, I didn't finish it. 2 more snips ran out. Is the next paragraph. Then all 3 were delighted. The huntsman drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine. Did the wolf eat the girl with the picnic basket too? If so, that cake must be really fucked up. And drank the wine which Little Red Riding Hood had brought, and revived. But Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood when my mother has forbidden me to do so." It was also related that once when Little Red Riding Hood was again taking cakes to the old grandmother, another wolf spoke to her and tried to entice her from the path. Little Red Riding Hood, however, was on her guard and went straight forward on her own and told her grandmother that she had met the wolf, and that he had said good morning to her, but with such a wicked look in his eyes, that if they had not been in the public road, she was certain he would have eaten her up. "Well," said the grandmother, "we will shut the door, that he may not come in." Oh god, they are. If you have any cursed ones that you want to send to me, just send me them in the, if you have me on Discord, just send them in my Discord. And if you have them, but you don't have me on Discord, just send them. You only read yaoi. That's Giga Chad right there. I could actually make that into a meme. Let me just finish reading this. Soon afterwards, the wolf knocked and cried, "Open the door, grandmother. I am Little Red Riding Hood, and I am bringing you some cakes." But they did not speak or open the door, so that the gray beard stole twice or thrice around the house, and at last jumped on the roof, intending to wait until Little Red Riding Hood went home in the evening, and then to steal after her and devour her in the darkness. But the grandmother saw that was in his thoughts. In front of the house was a great stone trough, so she said to the child, "Take a pail, Little Red Riding Hood. I made some sausages yesterday, so carry the water in, which I have boiled them, to the trough." Little Red Riding Hood carried it until the great trough was quite full. Then the smell of sausages reached the wolf. He sniffed and peeped down, and at last stretched out his neck so far he could no longer keep his footing, and began to slip, and slipped down from the roof straight into the great trough, and was drowned. But Little Red Riding Hood went joyously home, like a psychopath, and no one ever did anything to harm her again. Okay, you just killed a sapient, or we'll use sapient. You killed a sapient creature, and you have no mind of it. It's nowhere on your mind. You're not thinking about, I just killed a creature that thinks. No. You boil it alive until it dies in a stone trough. Was part 2 them eating a boiled wolf? My God. That's demented. Wow, Maurice. Now for the good boy. Oh, if you want to, another good one to redeem with that is the head pats. Greatly recommend it. Hazzy experienced it not too long ago, and I think they loved it too. Okay. And do you want me to whisper to you, or do you want me to say it in this voice? Your choice. Anything. Okay. Good boy, Maurice. Good boy. I love you so much. You stream often with that Felix model, and then you come into my stream. You say hello, and you do so many things. Good boy. Good boy. I thank you for coming in here. Hello, Rat darling. Right now I'm doing the head passing good boy for Maurice. I'll speak to you more. But back to you, Maurice. For being such a good boy. Why don't you come here? I'll wrap you in the blanket. Okay. I'll wrap you so tight. I'll take you. Just rest your head against my chest, okay? As I pet your head, I'll say wonderful things into your ear. Okay. Oh, you want head pets too? Good. Good boy. Okay. Now time for you, Rat. And you, Egg. Good, Rat. Thank you, Maurice. Oh, I need bot messages to be automated. I do, but I'm too lazy to figure out how to do it. Now back to you, Rat. Joe may give you a good girl too. And Egg, did you redeem the good girl for Rat too, or is that for yourself? Because I need to know to make this perfect. Okay. Rat. I'm not sure if you want me to say your nickname if you want me to, but I'll just keep on calling you Rat for now. I really do love it when you come into my streams. I really do love you for doing it. come in here, you do wonderful things like giving me company, telling me beautiful things. Okay, I'll do that right, egg. And then, of course, you send me messages. Sadly, you don't have a cat, so you can't send cat pics to people, but you do have a dog. That's alright, too. Dogs are alright. I especially remember that my cousin had a very nice old dog. I did play with that a few times, and it was very, very fun. Unless, of course, you want to be my dog, in which case, get your dog ears on and start giving me woofs in chat. You'll change species. Now, egg. Darling egg. Thank you for coming in. It's always fun to be... Oh, whoa. Oh, you little woofer rat. Good girl. Oh, and now you're barking egg. Oh, Bjork. So many wonderful Bjorks in chat. Let me go put that in the title, and I'll go back to giving you the good girl egg. Bedtime stories. Bjork. Bjork. There. Okay. Egg. Okay. Have a good time, rat. Study well. Remember that I love you and enjoy you. So, be well, be merry. And if you get eye strain, just look at something far away for about 5 minutes and look back. Okay. Have fun, rat. Have a beautiful time now. And there's a little kiss from me to you. Back to you, egg. You little woofer. You're such a good little girl. Egg. Egg. You just occasionally send me stuff. I see you around always. Bye-bye, rat. I see you around many people's streams and servers. Just being you. I just gotta say that I love and appreciate you for that. I think the first time I ever saw you was in Pionta's chat. Many years ago. Or, not years, but months ago. Though, thinking about it now, if I first saw you in Pionta's chat, that must have been November. Has it been a year since I first saw you? God, I'm feeling old. Though, I may have first, thinking about it. Oh my. Are you sure about that, Maurice? I mean, thank you. I think you're my first ever subscriber. Hey, Moag. How you doing, honey? Well, I'll be sure to send you some nice stuff, and if you have any requests for your wonderful redeem. Oh, okay, I'll do your purr for your bread. Good to hear, Molag. If you have anything you want me to do, feel free to redeem. is your sub redeem? Just tell me. Then bark, bread. Get on your knees and give me a bark. This isn't a choice. Send me a little sound clip of you barking. Preferably on your knees. Oh. No, no, no. Having it be an emote is not good enough, Brad. Okay. Time to do huggies. You know, I really should get a little heart moistening jig. I'm not a little lose focus, but that's okay. Now, let me just push it a bit closer. Not sure how I sound. Let me just play for you for a minute. Okay. Oh, hey Shadow. Welcome in. We're doing a hug redeem for some wonderful people, so get hugged. But let me just play for you for a minute. Just rest your head on my shoulder. I'll run my fingers through your hair and play for just a minute. Okay. Just relax, okay? It's gonna be all good. You just need to give me a bark, okay? Just a little bark. Good boy, Maurice. Good boy. If you want me to use any other name, I can do that in public, or I can send you a little clip of it. Either one is good. Oh yes, Shadow, I got this model off of the person who I moderate for as they got a newer one, and their new model actually looks quite nice, though I think for some, referring to the person who I got the new one, for a person who says repeatedly that they need to only show it. Oh, good egg. Though for a person who needs to only, or stayed there, only show it on their debutante, they've shown it quite a lot. Oh. You want me to call you Maury? Okay. I suppose anything will do for a good boy such as yourself, Maury. You good boy. You know. Is that what you think, Brett? I mean, there's no problem with that. That's new model part 2. Now, Maury, I don't know how I can separate audio to the left or to the right, because I'm currently using just Switch Studio. Ooh, I really need to add that Bungie emote. I think he has it uploaded and I have to go to Better Twitch TTV and add it, which I may be able to do in just a second. So if you don't mind me, I am going to play for your ear for a minute here. Okay, hon? Okay. Dashboard. Oh. Does Bungie Nutters not work for me for some reason? It's clearly in there as the emotes. Oh. This one I wonder. Oh, that I have caps on, chatty. Okay. I'm just gonna start whispering too, because you're very important to me. Yeah. It isn't showing up in chat with either, so I'll probably have to do another thing. Anyway, back to enjoying this. could try getting a little ear. I could get one of those little ears. I should add that to Throne, perhaps. Now I know that I don't think I want to really go to my throne because, frankly, I don't stream enough. I don't feel like I deserve it, but that's alright. Do you have anything else you want me to say? Like my voice? Thank you, darling. I only think I have a few more minutes I'll be streaming, but I do love it when people are here. I do too. I especially like it when people compliment my voice. But just relax, okay? If you have any suggestions for redeems you want me to add, just tell me. As I need to think of some ones I need to add. I did the one for egg, good. But for now, let's get back to doing this. Let me find. Ooh. I wonder if I were to do. Okay, I'm doing another poll, chat. Dearest chat. I'm going to read a little bit more of a book. So, / poll. Yeah, I have to actually, Winnie the Pooh. Peter Rabbit. Okay, I will have the poll up. Okay, I can wait for a bit. For 2 minutes. And you tell me what you want me to read for you. Okay. Oh, there's even more. Oh my, I'm gonna have to bookmark this for as books to read. Let me remove. I wonder. Oh, I do have a book in there. Book. Another folder. Let me put this in books today. There. I have it saved. Now. Thumbelina, the Ugly Duckling. Alice's Adventures Underground. A shortened version. The Ant and the Grasshopper. The Little Thief in the Pantry. The Tortoise and the Hare. Rickety Tickety Tavi. Ricky Tikki Tavi. I've never heard of that one before. I'll read a little bit of this and tell me if you like the way in which it sounds. This is a story of the Great War that Ricky Tikki Tavi fought single-handedly for the bathrooms of the big bungalow in Segauli, Cantonment Darzi. The tailor bird helped him, and the Chunchundra, the muskrat, who never comes out into the middle of the floor but always creeps round by the wall, gave him advice, but the Ricky Tikki did the real fighting. He was a mongoose. Oh, Peter Rabbit won. Okay, okay. Peter Rabbit it is. That one seems enjoyable. I won't be able to read for much longer, I'm afraid, honey. So, apologies. If you, of course, want me to talk to you more, just DM. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Let me go quickly change this. Control. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. And save. Thank you for saying this is comfy. I do love it when people think I'm comfy. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits. Their names were Floppy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a big fir tree. Now, my dears, said old Miss Rabbit one morning, you may go in the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. That's morbid. Let me just quickly open up a thing here. Twitch. I'm going to quickly look for someone to raid in just a moment. ASMR. We'll just raid Echo. And I'll quickly mute him. Be gone, noise. And copy name. Now back to actual stream here. Okay, back to reading. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out. Then old Miss Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella to the baker's. She bought a loaf of bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were those good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes, and then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of the cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting young cabbages, but then he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake, and calling out, "Stop thief!" Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop thief!" Peter, who was most dreadfully frightened, rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on all 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he may have gotten away altogether, if he had not unfortunately ran into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons in his jacket. It was a blue jacket of brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost, and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop up upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It might have been a beautiful thing to have that much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently Peter sneezed. Care to chew? Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. Ooh, give me just a second. Okay. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. He also was very damp, was sitting in that can. After a time he began to wander about, going lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in the wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for that fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. Oh, thank you, Rat King. It's very much appreciated. Let me just, continue here for just a moment. And I had to fix sound alerts, I remember that. So much stuff I had to fix. He found the door in the wall. An old mouse was run in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans for her family in the wood. Peter asked her on the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and again tip of her tail twitched, as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. Oh, I don't even have much to read in this. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, became more and more puzzled. He went backwards towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Stritch, stritch, stritch. Peter scuttled underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon the wheelbarrow, and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow, and started running as fast as he could go. Along the straight walk, behind some black currant bushes, Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and his shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him until he got home to the big fir tree. He was so very tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well in the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime, but Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. And I do hope you enjoyed that, hon. I'm going to raid out to... To whom should I raid to? Welcome back, Egg. Should I mention that I'm about to raid out and finish? Quickly though, Egg, do you have anyone you can suggest I raid to? I know. You'll be able to listen to it, hon, if you just go to the VOD. It shouldn't be a problem. But, Panda, you followed too. Why, thank you, darling. But who should I raid to? I know one big ASMR streamer who I enjoy is streaming right now, and I could raid them. Or I could raid someone much smaller. I could perhaps raid someone who isn't even in the ASMR. That could be good too. But let me first take a peek here. yeah, pretty much everyone I am following is either streaming something else or is streaming something altogether separate. Let me try. How about I don't sort by sort by low to highest. I think that'd be a good way to do things. Okay. Ooh, okay, let me look back at chat here. See if there are any recommendations. I prefer another ASM artist, but I really don't have too many opinions. Ooh, who's this? Let me go check them out. Oh, yes, I'm okay. It's just my mother came home from work and I'm going to talk to her after this, so I'm occasionally muting my mic. Apologies about that. And boop. Okay, they have 4 viewers. They're Owl, and let me go open them up and mute their tab near immediately. Oh, they have a nice voice. Okay. To them, I raid. Okay. And okay. Okay. No problem, everyone. /raid. And bam. And the raid message will be, you have a cozy voice. I like. There. And that'll be the raid message for today. Again, I thank each and every one of you for showing up and supporting me. I love each and every one of you. And also Pastel, it's currently, what, 1:33 Central European time for you? You need to go to bed, hon. Perhaps it's 2. I don't quite know, but you gotta go to bed. The raid message is that, which I pasted, and I wish each and every one of you a beautiful day. Bye bye, darling. Tschüss.